You guys are playing this game, Stump the Minister. Boy, you're doing a good job, I'll tell you. You've been submitting questions at my request. To ask for questions is that a smart thing, this little voice has been saying? You really want questions, do you? You want questions? I mean, like you have all the answers. You really want questions? You got your own questions, don't you? Yes, I do. Have you figured everything out? No. Why would you want questions from someone else? I don't know. Somehow it seemed like a good idea at the time, and then the words came out of my mouth, and it was too late to do anything about it. So here we are. Last week I sort of hedged. Did you notice? I kind of did the big existential question last week, who am I? Figured somebody certainly was asking that in some way, shape, or form, although I couldn't find it written in the green sheet somewhere, but I knew that it was implied in there, so I thought I would take it on. But this week I actually have questions that I'm going to work with. Let me begin, though, before I get to that question. Don't put it up. Have you put it up already? Oh, okay, don't put it up yet, because I want you to I have to put out the huge disclaimer first, right? So what I thought of this morning as I was realizing that it's rather sort of presumptuous to say, okay, you give me this big life question and I'm going to give you the big life answer, So what we really understand here, or hopefully we remember together, and that's what this is about right now, this disclaimer, is that what we believe in unity is that the truth, whatever truth is where? Right here. Right. Wherever you are. We say it right at the end of our service, right? Wherever you are. And so where's the truth? Wherever you are. Where are you right now? Okay. So I don't have any answers for you. Let's take an offering, a couple more songs. That'll do it. But these words from Robert Browning came to me, and I thought, well, this will be eloquent if nothing else is. Truth is within ourselves. It takes no time. It takes no rise from outward things. Whatever you may believe, there is an inmost center in us all, where truth abides in fullness and around. Wall upon wall, the gross flesh hems it in, this perfect, clear perception which is truth. A baffling and perverting carnal mesh binds it and makes all error. And to know, which is what we're trying to do when we ask a question, and to know rather consists in opening out a way whence the imprisoned splendor may escape, than in effecting entry for a light supposed to be, we think, outside of us. So, let's take question number 1. Thank you. We are made in the image of God. Why then are we, quote, blessed with ego, the dark side? Star Wars is coming back. I mean, how many generations is going to be able to experience Star Wars? I think that's really cool. I could see my grandson going to Star Wars with me. That'd be good. So good question. I don't know, but let's go on to the next one. No. Good question. Actually, I have some spiritual teachers who I correspond with, and they're kind of the famous ones in the world. And I actually sent a question off. You guys got me in the spirit of asking questions. So I asked a couple of questions to this one spiritual teacher, and he wrote back, and he said, "That's a really good question." And I felt, God, I didn't even care what he had to say after that. I was just glad to know that I had asked a really good question. I don't know what he meant by that, but I took it as a compliment that somehow I had crafted a really good question. Anyway, this is a good question. So we're made in the image of God. And of course, we say this all the time, and And so it's so good to question our assumptions. Because, sometimes, especially if we're in this world of sort of, we use truth as sort of like a running mantra. We're running through life and we have these affirmations that we just sort of have them, like we're going out the door in the morning, we're going off to work, or we're going off to school or whatever, and we grab our cell phone and we grab our papers that we need to take, and we grab a snack, and then we grab a handful of affirmations and we put them in our quiver so that, while we're running through the day, we can call up this notion. And this is one that I say all the time in here. We are made in the image and the likeness of God. It comes right out of the scriptures, the Genesis story. And it's, we think, oftentimes that particular statement, made in the image and the likeness of God, we know that that's a metaphor. But what do we really mean by that? So before we even answer the second part of the question, we got to answer, what does it mean to be made in the image of God, yeah? So it requires us to sort of break it down, sort of like, well, what is it to be made in the image and likeness of God? And the way we see God, and Jesus said, when you worship God in spirit and in truth, right? So this notion that whatever God is, and of course we don't profess to know, it's something that is infinite and unknowable in a certain way. But what we have to go on is the description of those people who have become the realized ones, yes? And so, we'll look at the words of Jesus, and he talks about God as spirit, and he said that, the kingdom of God is at hand. And this notion that wherever we are, this spirit goes with us. And so the very nature of spirit is what? Is it visible? It's not visible. Does it have any sensory ways of being able to quantify it or validate it in any way? The five senses, will they help us in any way for us to understand this divine, this spirit? No. Now, it may be that you have a sensory experience when you feel that you are experiencing the presence of the divine. Yes, you could have a tingling. Some people see, you have visions and things. We know that can be secondary, but primarily the experience of the presence of the divine is not going to come through the body's senses, right? So immediately, if we're even talking about what we are made of, we have to know that it's beyond sensory knowing. And that in and of itself is a huge leap, isn't it? For those of us, for most of us, who orient ourselves to reality based upon what we can see and taste and touch and hear and feel, right? So knowing that that's what we are made of, it sends us into this sort of never land of first confounding the rational mind so that we can actually find ourselves where we actually do live and move and have our being and have a sense of this reality, which is not a physical reality. And that's the problem. I mean, that's the problem for me. I don't know about you, but I like things that I can touch and feel and work with. And you take on spiritual growth and you can't get your hands on it, you can't see it. It's frustrating, isn't it? It's like, trying to, catch a dust mite that's floating through the air and you grab it and it's gone and you have a sense, you know it's here, and every mystic, every spiritual master, every sage and saint has said, this is a reality. It's more real than anything else. It's more real than anything that you could taste or touch or see. It's more real. It is primary. It is fundamental. It is the base of life. And we are made in the image and likeness of this invisible, most fundamental, most primary whatever. And the work that many of us finally come to if we want to have this realization is to stop trying to make God in our image and likeness, which is to try to pull in this need for concreteness, to see God as some grandfatherly figure, up in the sky, that we can say, oh yeah, I know what God is like. And to do that is to not only deny the reality of the reality, but it's deny the reality of ourselves. Because as soon as we put the divine out there into form, we deny the reality of the immanence of the Spirit that's here right now. Wanting to reveal itself, wanting nothing more. What would a creator want more than anything else but for its creation to know itself as it really is? I mean, if you've had children or you've had a pet, I mean, you pour this love into them and you keep, more than anything else, you want them to know how you see them, don't you? You don't want them to be confounded by, what someone else is saying that's less than truthful, that's less than loving, that's less than accurate of the beautiful being that they are. You pour these affirmations into them, and the Creator, which is that which underlies what we are, is always revealing itself in complete clarity and accuracy through us. And it's only our ability to recognize that determines whether we experience that presence as it truly is or not. It has nothing to do with what the divine is doing. Because the divine is always expressing in you and through you and as you. As you. What's more fundamental than that? When Jesus said, the Father and I are one, he was describing the nature of reality, that there is only one presence, one power, one love, one life, and we are all its expression. And it seems with these various bodies here that there is all this individuation going on, but there is only one primary energy. Whether you call it love or infinite intelligence or whatever you want to call it, that is what we are. But we did something, or we do something, because, even the quantum physicists and everyone else saying time is just an illusion. That's not just New Age mumbo jumbo, right? So I could say we did something, way back when we forgot who we were. But that wouldn't really be accurate, because that would mean that time was real. You ready for that one? We can play that out to say that, yeah, way back when, because, those who like the Genesis story would say, well, long time ago, in the beginning, there was this story of when oneness became two-ness, and they gave them names. Oneness had a male counterpart and a female counterpart, right? Oneness became, male version was Adam. Female version was Eve, yes. And so there's this story going on in which before there was an Adam and an Eve, there was no God walking in the garden. There was just the infinite presence and the power and the love and the life. Oneness. And into the consciousness, there emerged, out of this vastness, there emerged this tiny idea. It was just like pulled up, like, okay, here's oneness, we're just going to pull it up, and it's seemingly a single aspect of the oneness that then saw and reflected back on itself and thought, what would it be like to be apart from the oneness? Which is, of course, not possible, right? How can you ever, if all there is oneness, Is there a place where oneness ends? And then beyond that, anything else other than oneness could happen? No. So it has to be a crazy idea. Anyway, there it was, and it emerged. It emerged. It's like you get up in the morning, and you have a crazy idea, and you go through the whole day thinking it until somebody goes, no, you're not Einstein, or whatever your illusion that you're holding that day. But anyway, that didn't happen, and oneness is so not concerned, right? It's so not concerned with illusions because they're illusions, because it can't exist anyway, that there's no energy of saying, oh no, don't do that. But anyway, so it's just like the wave out here in the ocean, It just came up like this and decided that it had its own reality. So we have this story of Adam and Eve, and suddenly, they have everything they need. They're connected to this infinite resource, the abundance of the universe. But they do bite of that idea of separation. And when they do that, then they begin to have problems and suffering. And the story of Adam and Eve kind of turns it into a guilt, blame, shame game, which is, suddenly Adam he's in the garden, and God speaks to him and says, Adam, is that you? And Adam says, oh yes, it's me, God. And suddenly, first of all, God should not have been in the garden. God wasn't in the garden, but this was only after this thing happened. So he says, well, I'm naked and I'm ashamed. God goes, oh, you must have bit of the idea of separation. And Adam, we understand this one really well. Oh no, Eve told me to do it. Do we know this one? God says, Eve, did you tempt Adam to eat the apple? And Eve said, oh no, the serpent beguiled me. And that's the blame shame game, right? We've been passing it on ever since. There's your answer. You and I are swimming in this ocean of oneness. And we're asking the question, where is the love? Where is peace? How do I get peace of mind? Where is abundance? I have all of these needs, and I've got this list, and someone told me that if I put that list up on a prominent place in my computer monitor and have a scrolling thing on my phone, that I can manifest all these things that I want in my life, and then I'll finally feel I'll feel abundant, and I'll feel peaceful, and I'll feel this love, and I'll get the right person in my life, and all the while, oneness is your nature. And the only way that you and I can get back to that is by realizing that which does not change. Because everything that happened when we decided that we were separate from that oneness is the ego, is the world of duality. Is because the thought of separation must necessarily create duality. Because oneness, there is nothing missing. And as soon as oneness is discounted, there is the opportunity for duality. In other words, for opposites to exist, to have and to not have. In oneness, there's no such thing as not having. In the ocean, there's no such thing. Where in the ocean would there be a concept that could live for even a millisecond of the idea of drought? If you're the ocean, let's pretend for a moment you're the ocean, because in a way you are. You're the ocean. And you read in the Santa Barbara News Press this thing about drought. There isn't any water. Or there's not enough water. Now your nature is what? Water. What do you can't even grok this idea of drought, can you? You are the livingness, givingness of water. It is your nature wherever you look, however you look, however you quantify yourself. If you look inward, if you express outward, you are H2O. You can't find the lack of it. But we're running around looking for something to drink all the time, aren't we? Am I being too hard on you? Guess who I'm talking to? Oneness, who forgets and becomes two-ness, and three-ness and four-ness and not enoughness. The not enoughness cannot live in the Garden of Eden consciousness in which all needs have been met. It only lives in the illusion that I am separate from my source. Only out of that forgetfulness can this notion that there isn't enough and that you aren't enough, can that live? Yesterday we were in this workshop. Reverend Denise was facilitating a workshop for some of us that we are going to bring out to the whole community. We were test driving it. It's called the Q effect, the art and practice of nobody and nothing against you. The art and practice of nobody and nothing against you. How would it be possible that you could live with this idea that nobody and nothing is against you? And I'm going to give it away. But you've got to go to the workshop too. Right? Right. But here's the thing. The only way that you could see that nobody and nothing is against you, no matter what was happening in your life, no matter what anybody was doing in your life, is if you were established in the reality of your true self, in your wholeness, right? If you knew yourself as the ocean of devotion, the ocean of love, of peace, and wholeness, then it could never be possible for whatever to happen to be against you, because nothing can be against you as your wholeness. You are one with the presence of all that you need. Nothing that anybody could do could separate you from your good. And so the art and practice of living that way is to be established in the reality of our being, and that's why we do our practices, and that's why we do our prayers, and that's why we do our meditations. Not so that we can coax a reluctant God to somehow give us this sense of wholeness and, please, God, let me know who I am. But so that the mind, that the ego, Adam mind, the unenlightened self, which has taken over awareness, can relax, that it can drop its story of not enough, and then make space for what is true, what remains, which is awareness itself, the unfettered, untainted screen of awareness in which all reality is captured in its fullness. I used this metaphor last week, and I'll use it again because it's really helpful to me and hopefully to you as well. When we understand our truest nature, we can think of it as a screen, like a movie screen. Now, a movie screen does not contain the movie. It's just a capacity for the movie to be reflected, correct? So if you're watching a movie, and let's say there's a screen up here, and we're watching a movie. Well, there is a screen up there, but we can't see it. So that's a screen, and we're watching a movie. We're watching a movie of this flower arrangement. That's the movie we're watching, and so you're looking at it. Now, if you're looking at the flower arrangement, can you see the screen behind the flower arrangement? Not around it, but behind it. Can you see the screen? No. The movie that you're seeing, this is the movie that you're seeing, and this is capturing all of your awareness. But if the screen is not there, and we're projecting this image of this flower arrangement up there, there's no screen, is there an image? No. Something has to make the projection of reality, make it real, make it so that it's experienceable. That's a word. Without a screen, nothing exists. But is the screen affected by what I project onto the screen? If I'm showing movies in here and I get out this love story, and we're watching this love story, and then I change it and I put on a horror movie where people are being tortured and killed, how is the screen affected by that? The art and practice of living with nobody and nothing against you is to know yourself as the screen. Because all this stuff that's happening out here does not affect the screen. Oh yeah, it may affect your body. It may affect your psyche. All of these things that we think we are. But when we come to know ourselves as we were created in the image and the likeness of God, we will know ourselves as pure awareness. And that's how it's possible to have peace that passes all human understanding. Not because you finally lined things up, got them to be the way you wanted them to be, got the ultimate job, finally got the 7-figure retirement deal. But because you now see yourself as that which is immune from the rise and fall of circumstances. Because who of us could imagine a God, this ultimate loving being, creating you with this variation of the possibility of knowing yourself according to the way things are showing up in an illusory world? That's a God we created in our image and likeness. Yes? Troubling, isn't it, a bit? It's a pill. It sometimes gets stuck. You have to work with these ideas. But I believe that's what every master teacher has said. That the work is to go within and to discover this part of us which does not rise and fall. The presence and the power and the love that we call God is made manifest in you and through you and as you, and it is like the screen. It is capacity for everything that arises in life to arise in life, and it will not diminish you in any way, shape, or form. And if it does, it's only because it's been captured by who you are not. The only time we can experience life being against us, and when we are identified with not who we really are, but who we are not. Because who we are not is the very frail body, mind, separated sense of self that needs constant protection. Underneath that is what we were created in the image and likeness of. And we get to choose how we identify ourselves. Amen? Amen. Okay. We didn't get to the other question, but that's okay. Very good. We'll see what the second service has. I had 2 questions for this morning, but I didn't know that I'd get through both of them. I may get through both in the second service. Anyway, good. I do want to read what some of you may know. We had a party some time ago, and we asked people from the congregation that were attending, what is it they appreciate about Unity of Santa Barbara, and how has it impacted them in their life? And so I wanted to read one of these this morning. Do you have this slide up, Penny? Yeah, thank you. So this individual says this: Unity of Santa Barbara allows me to feel and be complete, brings me into a family that blesses my heart, gives me fulfillment of purpose, the freedom of spirit that I have always sought, gives me hope for the future of our world, This is my forever home. So we're grateful for this community and all the ways that it does support people's highest intentions for spiritual growth and development and unfoldment. Certainly is that for many people, and it is for me, and I'm grateful.